And on the 8th day, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, I need a caretaker. So God made a farmer.
Howdy folks, Darren here with you, Cross Timbers Farm. Welcome to 8th Day Chronicles. Glad to have you with us. Part 4 of our goat fencing project. As you can see, I'm in the process of putting insulators on T-posts today, and I'm going to be doing wood posts too, but right now I'm putting the ones on the T-post. I'm spacing them appropriately with my ruler. I'm using a type of insulator that I've never used before. These are Red Snapper brand T-post insulators, and they are screw-on, which is a little odd for me anyway. Screw-on. They are about 2 inches out. They extend, I'm trying to see if it says exactly how much, but well, I'll tell you what, let's just measure one. I think they are supposed to extend 2 inches. Let's just try one here. Here it is. This T-post insulator just spreads like that and goes on your T-post. And then once you've got it on the post, you have a locking ring on the back. These are threaded. And this ring just goes on and just screws on. So far, the ones I've put on are doing a really good job. So let's quickly take a ruler and see how long this extends from the T-post. It's supposed to be around 2 inches. Actually, folks, it's about 2 3/4. Awesome, 2 3/4 inches out from our T-post, which that's what we want, is that space between the barbed wire, the existing barbed wire, and the electric wire. We want the electric to stick out a little further. One of the reasons we decided to go with this Red Snapper 2.5 inch, 2 3/4 extended T-post insulators was because we got a killer of a deal on these from Kencove. I believe they were on a clearance, and we got these things so cheap that I couldn't pass them up. And a huge shout out to Ric Lavoy of Kencove. He's a sales representative, and Rick is usually who I talk to when I call Kencove. I appreciate Rick so much that when I call Kencove, I usually ask to speak with him if he's there and available. Nothing against none of the other sales representatives there for Kencove. They're all fantastic. But it kind of like me and Ken is on the same page with a lot of stuff, or I'm sorry, Rick are on the same page with a lot of stuff, and Rick is a huge help. When you call, Rick is so in tune with farmers, it seems, and he knows how it is farming, and the price of stuff just went outrageous, and your distributors are really not to blame for that. They're paying a lot more for the supplies themselves, so in turn they have to pass those prices on. Fencing prices has just the last 3 or 4 years just been unreal. What you could do for $500 8 years ago now cost you $1,000. It's just unreal. But anyway, Ric Lavoy has been fantastic. If I call and need something and for some reason they're out of stock, they're sold out, Ric will take the time to search for me to find a substitute. And he'll actually search for the best price too for you. You know, and I've even had him recommend, hey, we don't have this item, we're out of stock, and we show no date of when we're going to get this stuff in. It could be a while. And he would even make a suggestion to try somewhere else something. That's good service. That's good service. That keeps me going back to Kencove when I need stuff. I check there first. But anyway, our insulators and everything come from Kencove Fencing. We got a really good deal on these insulators. I mean, a fantastic deal. These were the price of about what you would have paid, you know, pre-COVID 5-7 years ago. We got all these for $125 per bag. And we had to buy a bunch of bags. I think about 10 or 12 bags full of them. So got an excellent deal, fast shipping, and we're going to get started putting these on. We're moving right along with our fence. Come with us. These are the type corner post insulators that I like in this system. Over the years, I've tried several different types of corner. Anywhere your fence is making a 90 or a 80, you know, whatever that degree is, but a sharp turn. We've tried several over the years, different styles. We've used the tube insulators that have the aluminum piece inside of them that you can just bend around. We used those for a long time. Matter of fact, we used them on our front pasture and our high tensile installation. Over the years, I kind of went away from those. Over time, we had several that started kind of arcing on the front and on that high tensile application. And even in the middle pasture, we used some of them in a non-high tensile with this 12.5 gauge soft wire from Kencove. And we had some of them that, not as many as the high tensile, but we had a few that started arcing regularly, causing a grounding issue. So we went away from those, and what I'm using now is I just take some wire, 12.5 gauge wire, and we form a loop, a double loop. We double it around the fence post, and we use the donut insulators. We form a loop twice around it, and we crimp it with crimp sleeves to form the loop. And as I said, we double it. It goes through the donut insulators twice and around the post twice. And then we just take some fencing steeples and attach it on each side where we want it. And a double, one like this in a double corner, we put two donuts going each way. Now, if this was the end of our fence, we would only have one donut pulling only one way. But this way we can pull both directions, and we have this side wired in, but not this side. This is the side we're working on. And you can see right here in front of me, we have some wire coming off these. It's going to come around and tie in. It makes our jump from here to here. And I'm not touching those because they're hot. Our new solar charger is firing these up. And I've been shocked so many times. It hurts. I don't like it. Do not like it. Me and 6 to 8,000 volts of electricity don't get along. Really, 1 volt of electricity, I don't like it. So I understand why the animals stay away from it. But we're going to go down to our next corner, and we're going to build a double corner like this with the wire to go around to go both ways to keep our fence going right on. But these have already been built and they're already attached. And I'll give you just a quick close-up of this. You can see I'm sweaty. Man, we went from last weekend, I think one night we got down to like 17, and during the day it was just in the high 30s or low 30s. And today it's 72 degrees. It was a couple hours ago. I really like this style of corner design, installation, or design, whatever you want to call it. But I really like this style. It's convenient, it's easy to fix if it ever gives you problems. And so far we've been using this style for about two years now. Zero problems with anything arcing. Okay, I don't know if you can see that on camera. This is a woods-grown locust post. It was a woods-grown locust tree. And what I mean by woods-grown is when you have locusts, they like to grow on field edges. And when they grow on field edges, they grow faster because they get plenty of sun. And the growth rings are further apart. They're not as hard. They're not as good a fence post. When you hear someone, especially an old timer, say that's a woods grown locust, that means it was actually growing in amongst the other trees back in the woods where it was sheltered from so much sunlight. And because of that, it grows really slow, and the growth rings on it are so close you can't even hardly differentiate them. And those are the ones you want for fence post. Downside is they are so hard that when you drive a fence steeple in them, they will drive in about a half an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch. If you have 1-inch steeples, I think these are actually 1.5. When you drive these in about an inch, they will not go, they just start doubling over. They will not drive deeper. That is, it's like trying to drive a nail into granite. It will not go. But they go in far enough to work. So trust me, even though that doubled over right there, you'll never get that out. It will not come out. Okay, folks, we're pulling our first strand on this one section. And in each strand, every strand, we're going to be putting 4 strands of electric here. We've already got 4 strands of barbed wire and deer hair all in the barbed wire. Deer's hard on fences around here. This electric fence ought to stop some of this going through this barbed wire. In any event, we put a strainer. It's just a simple cog strainer. I think these are Donaldson's or something like that. We put a strainer on every strand in every section. And the reason we're not just going with one strand all the way around the pasture, we do it in sections. We put the corners with donuts in each corner to build its own strand and just jump it across. That way, if we have a section of fence that a tree falls across or something like that, our total whole fence just don't go down. We can fix one strand or all 4 strands in one little section without having to mess or lose the tension or anything on the rest of our fence. That's the reason we do this. And we put the strainers on each strand in each section so that we can tighten each strand in each section without having to put pressure on all the rest of the fence. We can do each one individually. So we're ready to do that. We've pulled this wire and we're about the middle of this strand, and we're going to put our knee on this so it don't go flying. And we're going to cut our wire right there. And be very careful when you're messing with this stuff. You can put an eye out when this wire goes flying loose. Okay, somewhere around here, there they are. I've got some crimp sleeves. All right, attaching a strainer's pretty straightforward. Let's slide a crimp sleeve on there. And we run it through just a little ways and bend this back over itself, just like that. All right, let's push our crimp sleeve up on it with our tag end. Just like so. And the flies are already out. They sure are. All right, let's fit this into our crimper. A big crimping tool. Ah, there we go. Okay, this end of the strainer is done, as you can see. Okay, now your strainer has 2 holes here. We're going to get them where they're turning straight up and down, and we're going to bend our other end in a U shape so it'll go down through these holes. Okay, we pull it right down through. We're going to get it by our linesman pliers. Give it a good tight pull. It's like that. And this soft wire, you can bend it right back around. It's like that. Okay, anytime you make any trims in your field, don't leave little pieces of wire line. Make sure you get it all up to go in the metal recycle bin. Okay, let's move on up to our corner. Okay, we're here at our corner, and we're going to apply our crimp sleeve. We're going to give the wire with our linesman pliers a good pull and get a bend in it around our corner donut and crimp it with our crimp sleeve. Crimp sleeves. And years ago, when I was building a high tensile fence, I was building a fence one day and I was getting pretty close to being done, wasn't far, and I noticed I was just about out of crimp sleeves. I have always crimped 2 just for extra hold, and I was about out, so I decided to shave a little bit off and just use 1 crimp sleeve to hold it to see how it would do, because I was about out and it was late in the evening, no stores open. So I just went with 1, and lo and behold, over the years, those ones that were crimped with just 1 are holding just as good as the ones crimped with 2. So I only crimp with 1 now. On a small farm, your budget's always in mind, and anywhere you can save some money, not using so many materials, do it. So I just use one and have had no issues. All right, let's give this wire a really good pull. Oh yeah, look at the slack coming out of it. That's probably gonna be about it. All right, I'll slide my, it tightened quite a bit. Quite a bit of slack pulled out of it. Okay, I'm gonna come right in this corner with my linesman pliers and crimp that down nice, just like that. Okay, it's pretty tight. However, before I crimp this, I'm gonna walk the line and make sure I don't have some of the wire while they was slacking, it got caught up on the barbed wire or something like that, where when I take it loose, then suddenly there's gonna be a bunch of slack. So be right back. Okay folks, we're ready to tighten her up. As you can see, we've got our strainer tool. This tool's pretty simple. It can work two ways. You can turn it on the cogs, or you can just use the square, and that's what I do. All right, you can see the fence tightening. Okay, now bear in mind, this is not a high tensile fence. However, we are using 12.5 gauge wire, and I'm not sure that I remember the exact break strength of it, but it's pretty strong wire. But you just don't want to over tighten. You want your fence to be snug, but you don't want to over tighten. Over tightening, I have found over the years, really does nothing but put undue stress on your fence post corners. It will really pull them if you just go to cranking down on that thing with no mercy, thinking that it needs to be tight enough to play a guitar tune on. It don't need to be that tight. It needs to be tight enough to where there's no slack in it, and it's staying kind of in line with all your insulators, and it's not drooping. But you don't need to over tighten. Okay, there's one strand done. The very bottom strand is attached, and we made our connection in the corner, and it's in the insulators and a strainer in line, and it's been tightened to a tension that I'm happy with. Now, for this one section of fence, 3 more to go. It's just a carbon copy of what we did here. So we're going to go with the rest of this. Hopefully before dark we can get this section done. Here's you a quick tip fencing hack. Anytime you're running your electric wire and you've got brace wires like this right here that's obviously going to interfere with your electrical wire coming across, they're going to touch, and you're going to have a grounding issue here. Even if they're not touching, they're going to be really close, and if something slips or anything happens, that post moves a little bit, whatever, then all of a sudden you could have a grounding issue where your fence is getting grounded out. Never throw away old garden hose. Take you a little short piece of garden hose, slide up on your fencing wire, just like that. Then it's on your line. You can pull it to wherever it's going to make contact. Use a couple of zip ties and crimp it down really tight to your wire in place where it can make contact, and you never have to worry about it grounding out. Okay folks, our fence is done. We're finished. I'm happy. I think Susan will be happy with it. I think the goats will be happy with this, really happy with this back pasture. This back pasture on this lower section is pretty steep. It's so steep we can't cut hay on it, and we can't even get the tractor on it. It's so steep, and you can't even drive a vehicle on it. It's very, very steep. I've never measured the exact degree of slope, but it's significant. And but we can get our ATV on it. I can even side hill it on my ATV and kind of just keep all my weight leaned uphill. I can even pull that little pull behind brush hog across it to keep it mowed. But the goats are going to love this. Pastures like this right here, goats love it. They love steep places. You'll see them out in somebody that's got like a herd of boer goats or something, or dairy goats, and they'll have them out in a real nice flat meadow, and 9 times out of 10 you look at the goats and they are off in a ravine somewhere. Anywhere that it's steep that they can get in, they love to climb, and be in steep places, they love it. So I think the dairy goats are going to thrive in this pasture. We got some really good stands of orchard grass in this pasture and red clover already. And it's kind of a shame in one way because we can't cut that hay, because that is really good grass back here in a lagoon mix. Probably a total grass of 65%, and then probably 35% red clover. And there's some white clover on it too, Ladino clover. But the goats are going to love it. And the fence is done. I'll take you a quick look at the fence. Our goat fencing project, part 4. This is part 4, and this is the last one. We're done. It is over. So we really appreciate you being with us through this fence build. It's been a lot of work, but hard work never hurt anybody. It's actually really good for you. Keep you healthy, keep your mind clean and clear, and you know, you can be out enjoying God's great creation, this beautiful, beautiful weather we're having this early spring, and we're looking really forward to moving the goat herd in here and getting them off of our hay fields. We like to have them on the hay fields during the winter. They put foot traffic on those hay fields, and they're fertilizing it continually. But it is early spring, and it's time to move them off that. So next thing we're going to be doing in fencing is doing some rotational fencing with poly twine and poly twine reels and some step-in fences to section them off certain areas and rotate. I'll probably every 5 days move them off of an area onto a new one. Our herd's not huge, so they don't pick the area very clean in 5 days, but that's okay. We've been blessed with enough grass to do that, so we're happy. So we got to move our portable shed in here, and we're looking at building another portable shed, a smaller one, because of the steepness of these hills, that we could actually even pull by hand if we need to, a small lightweight one for a few goats to be able to get in, and a dog during stormy weather. And bear in mind, this pasture back here where it's real steep, the animals will only be on this pasture in summer, spring, summer, fall. Winter, they go off of it. We do have to get our ram pump fired up, hopefully in the next day. We've got some work to do there. We got to get our stock tank brought down and put in the pasture, and our hoses stretched out from the tank down to the pump, and the pump installed. We done a little bit of work on the pump this winter, just refurbishing some things. And this pasture is going to have clean, cool, clear spring water flowing into a stock tank for them to drink out of. That's off grid, no power, none whatsoever. It works off falling water. It's what runs that pump, a hydraulic ram pump. We'll bring you along for that, because that pump is really, really interesting. So again, thanks for being with us here on our fence build. and our DYI solar fence energizer. Everything's ready to go. God bless and have a good evening.